All right, Benji, well, welcome in. We are here for episode 7. Feels like a long time since we've had a chance to sit down and talk. It's been a busy 2 weeks for both of us, especially you. You've been out of the country. You got a lot of stuff going on. Summer is busy. For you guys, we've got our annual convention for our mitigation company coming up.
Yeah.
And you know what? Here, I'm just going to say it. Like, I feel weird always saying mitigation company. I feel like people who know us know who it is. Like, I don't want to be like this annual secret reveal. I mean, I feel like everybody knows, especially those that know us. But obviously, it's the SERVPRO, which is what you guys are part of. Your franchise owner in the SERVPRO system. So we have our annual SERVPRO convention coming up next week in Tampa. Man, I wish we had some time next week, but I know you are super busy at convention.
Yeah.
But man, it'd be awesome to sit down.
Full.
It would be awesome to sit down and just take our equipment and just film a podcast there if we had time next week. But I know there's no way. Like, our days are especially yours. My days are stacked. I've already gone through and set up my workshops and all these things. It'll be great. A lot of this feeds into just our higher up lifestyle. I mean, the workshops we get to do, me working in digital marketing, got a lot stuff coming up. Just a bunch of different things for some SEO classes and social media and, just some internal stuff that we got going on. So it just feels busy is what I'm saying. It just feels busy.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is, today's episode is about mentorship.
Yep.
And as we go into our national convention, we mentor a lot of other SERVPRO owners, and I have some SERVPRO mentors other owners that mentor me too. So it's kind of a two-way street, but we got some good topics to talk about, and hopefully someone can get something
we'll talk
out
about it a little bit. It's exciting because you guys, what people don't really know. And, let's just give a little backstory real quick. I mean, mentorship's important. I think mentorship is probably a heart of yours. I think it really is, it's a big, if what you love doing was a love language, I feel like mentorship would be that for you. I think you mentor a group of us at the church that are part of the team. You mentor, you mentor, like you said, other SERVPRO owners. I feel like you mentor me. You're one of mine in terms of just business and how to handle things. I mean, obviously being new in the entrepreneur world, I feel like I've called you several times. Like, how do I set up my QuickBooks? Like, just little things like that, like, how do I pay my taxes? So all this kind of stuff. But I think that's something cool just to give a little background why it is important and why it's something, I hope people can grab some from this episode is that you've got years of experience. You guys used to have a trainership that trained, 50, 55 other SERVPROs and you're still doing that now. You're still training other SERVPROs through some peer groups that you have. And it's just everyday thing, running your business, how to market, how to handle production, how to handle issues, there's so many different levels that you guys deal with as entrepreneurs in this industry. So it's just been, it's something I know you enjoy doing. So it's cool that you got to get a moment to sit and talk about it.
Yeah, we have. It is probably one of my, besides our family and our faith, it's and leading worship. Obviously, it's a big passion of mine. But another one along those lines is mentoring other business people. Like you said, we do have some SERVPRO franchises we mentor, but I'm very blessed to be mentor to a company in Dallas, Texas called Classic Recreations. They're the car business we've talked about a couple times.
Adam West Media, you're mentoring right here.
Absolutely. No, Adam West Media,
So, but you have your own media company too that you mentor, which is cool. Because we get to work together on some projects. So we've got a couple of other. I mentor a gentleman who's in a feed and seed business he's really across half the United States. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it just started with him. He's got a really, really cool business, and it's a ministry for him. But anyway, that's one of them. So, it's really neat just to be able to mentor other people. But besides being a mentor, you need to have someone mentoring you to help you grow, So I got a question for you. What does a mentor do for you specifically?
Like, what does it do or mean? Like, what are you thinking are you thinking like, in terms of what it does, I guess it really go hand in hand. I feel like a mentor helps me. And really in general, it helps me in areas that I don't feel like I'm the most proficient in. Yeah. Like, it helps me in areas where I need to grow, where I need to learn. Take, for instance, business. It's been good to ask you This has been new for us this year. I've still got to kind of work through some things, and I got to get my business an LLC, which I walked through that process. I know you and Nick kind of helped me. So I got to go through that. I just haven't swallowed the $600-700 payment that you have to do for it. So, the bad thing is I'm trying to put the horse before the carriage, because I'm like, man, I want this camera and I want this gear. So, your eyes get big because you start having some retainer money coming in, or as you call mailbox money. I always joke. My wife always gives me a hard time that I call it mailbox money all the time. But, those are some of the things that I do. But I feel like it's somebody that trains me in areas that I'm not proficient in. I mean, just to throw out there a little bit. Obviously, I said you mentor me business-wise, but I mean, just also in life in general. I feel like there's things that, I deal with in terms of how I handle things, like what my working genius is. We kind of were able to help each other through each of those that we deal with. But, I've got mentors in photography and videography. Your wife's been a huge part of that. She's a fantastic photographer. She's helped me through some things. Some good friends of ours that do a lot of photography for SERVPRO corporate. Callie and Nathan have their own business. They live out in Tennessee, and they are phenomenal. Fantastic. I'm excited. I was to get to see them next week. So, that's kind of cool. I get to text them a little bit when I have questions, because they do a good job. And then, mentors that I have I have a group of guys that I work out with that we call ourselves bros and barbells as a joke, has kind of dwindled down to Powers and I. People are busy, have stuff going on. Jeremy Kelly's also in there. It's kind of dwindled down to the three of us. But I mean, to me, that's also a mentor. I mean, I know that could also be something where you build and you grow and you work together. But I mean, both of them are also businessmen. They both own their own businesses. I mean, that's their full-time gig. Mm-hmm. So it's just been nice. They say, surround yourself with who you want to be. And so I feel like I've been very, very good with doing that. And I'll talk a little bit more about surrounding yourself with that with mentors. But to me, that's kind of what it is. And that's where I'm at with it.
That's a good point, because it is absolutely 100% true. Surround yourself with people. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people think, I got to pay all this money to have a consultant, or, I got to pay to have someone help me through a process or whatever. You really don't. Sometimes you just got to ask questions. And, sometimes people will go, well, is it odd that I don't really like people asking me questions? Because you've mentioned before you're an introverted extrovert, or whatever the terminology is.
You could put me in a group, like if you like when we've had things and you're like, Adam, I need you to speak to X amount of people, or I need you to do this, or even speaking to our company as a whole. It doesn't bother me, but my recharge is being at home. It's funny, we joke all the time, but you and my wife are, I mean, y'all are identical, like in terms of who you are. And then your wife and myself are identical, like how we are, which is why I feel like the four of us get along so well.
Oh yeah.
But that's kind of how I am. I like to recharge. Like tonight, my wife has something she's doing, I'm excited. I know, we're just going to hang out at home and let the girls play. And I'm going to work on some projects that I want to work on, some video. But I'm also just gonna play some video. Like that's my recharge.
Yeah, for sure. So you got to have that. You do. But getting back, you gotta. If you surround yourself with people that are of like-minded, doesn't mean they do the same tools that you do or have the same toolbox you have. But you surround yourself with them that can encourage each other, build each other up, and someone or a group of us are staying ahead of the curve to get us to the next level. That's really what a mentor is designed to be.
Well. And I think that's important, and not to get off topic with mentorship, but one of the things that I've been trying to be better this year is reading. I'm so ADHD. Like I can't even. I mean, you know me. Like I can't sit still in meetings. Like I'm just ADHD. I mean, even now, like I'm shaking my leg just sitting here talking to you. Like I'm fine. It's being in one place, So what I've been trying to do is be better at reading. So what I've done is I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do Audible. I'm going to do Audible. Well, the first book I started with, I've heard it a lot. I'm listening to 50 Cent's Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter. And if you haven't heard it, haven't read it or heard it, or any of our listeners, highly recommend. Like Benji, I'm going to listen to it twice. Like it's so good. I mean, he's a world-renowned rapper. Yeah. He came from the streets. He was a drug dealer. He's done all these things, but he talks so much about where he is now. And he's like, I wanted to be out of that. I didn't want to be, what I didn't realize is how much of a businessman he is. Like he has built this empire. Like he talks about in the book. He's like, I'm not a good rapper. Like
Yeah.
I know I'm not. I don't know. I don't feel like I am. And I mean, he's done well. But one of the chapters that's been really good, and I'm like, man, it makes me feel good where I'm at. But it's all about like who's in your crew is what he calls it. And he talks about it. Like he talks about how people in it. He's like, look, if any of y'all have beef or you fight, you're done. You're done. I will let you. Because, you know, he's like, one of the things about rappers is he said entourages are, you know, everybody has them. And, you know, there's always beef. And, you know, and he's like, it's a bad persona. And he was like, I'm not about that. He's like, I'm not surrounding myself. And he said, you have to be hard on it with the people that you surround yourself around, because that is what you're going to pursue.
Yeah.
And I mean, he talked about some examples about some other music producers like that had stayed at home and have stayed like in their, like he said, you know, they've stayed in Queens and they didn't move out. He said, I moved out. Like he said, you know what? I'll come home. I'm going to support my community, but I can't be around that all the time if I'm going to continue being a businessman and growing. And so he just talked about how important that is to look. And it just kind of made me look at those things, how important it is to look at your crew. He said he's had people where he sent people a bus ticket home. They got in a fight. He's like, you done. I don't have time for this. He said to this day, they blame me for not having success. He's like, but I'm not going to surround myself with people that bring negativity. Like our mission is to be successful. Right. He talks about that. Yes, he knows he has money. He has all things, but he's like, money's not everything. I want to be successful. I want to leave a mark. I want to change culture. And he's like, that's what I want to do. But it's just important. It's funny how you talked about that. And it's, for me, it's like, that's why mentorship is so important, because it is who you surround yourself around and who you're feeding into other people.
Well, that brings me to a question then. So it could be possible that someone could have a positive mentor, but they could also be a negative mentor.
Yeah.
So be careful who you surround yourself with and who you really want advice from, because you definitely don't want to be in the category of someone dragging you the wrong way.
Yeah.
Right. That can work against you. Matter of fact, we're going to have an episode coming up on positivity and negativity soon.
Yeah.
Or down the road, because I think it's a very important piece. But no, that's a good point. I mean, matter of fact, the definition of a mentor is an experienced and trusted advisor. Okay. That's the noun. The verb version is to advise or train, especially a younger colleague. Now, we all know it doesn't have to be a colleague in the same environment, business, church, whatever you're in, but someone that you're trying to build up, because and they don't have to be younger than you either. Younger doesn't mean age. Younger means,
I think it's younger in experience.
Correct.
To me, that's what it is. It's not age, it's experience. I mean, I had a conversation with a guy from another church the other day, and I don't know if he's older than I am or if I'm older, but I mean, he said, hey man, I'm just getting in. He sent me a message on Instagram. He does creative for a church in Alabaster. He said, hey man, like I'm looking to purchase this camera and I'm looking to purchase this one. Like, he's like, I know you use this. And he's like, I see you post. Can I just pick your brain? So I was like, yeah, man. So I gave my cell, and you know, we talked for about 15, 20 minutes, and I'm like, man, what's your goal? Like, what are you trying to do? Like, I can tell you till I'm blue in the face what camera you should buy, what you should do. I mean, like, I'm a tech nerd, but ultimately, like, what's your end
you're
goal?
definitely a tech nerd.
Yeah. But what's your end goal? You know? Yeah. So, but I think my whole point was I believe he's older. But I mean, in terms of skill set, he's like, hey, I'm new to the video world. What do I do? So.
Yeah, that's the point. Is it doesn't matter the age of the person. It can be in skill set, tenure, you know, whatever the case may be. Because if someone's trying a new trick, you know, a new trade, whatever, they're obviously going to need someone that can help them get to that level. Matter of fact, shout out to our guy. I'm gonna try to pronounce his name, Adam. Raul. Sorry. Raul. By the way, Raul is
Raul.
We talked about him a podcast or two ago. He is a business entrepreneur. He's not. I'm not going to call him a
barber. He's a barber.
He's a barber. He is. But you know what's interesting? By the way, I got my first trim up from him, getting ready for this convention. And
I know, looking
got
clean.
The beard trim up. If you're watching on YouTube, got the old beard trim up. Fantastic. But today he was asking me questions about, you know, our business, because you had obviously talked to him about me and my brother and all. And
I joked with him just so you know, before he came. I said, look, man, I said, I convinced him to come. I said, he's our company owner. I said, look, I'm not trying to bribe nothing, but we're like, I said, we're a big franchise. And I said, we've got a lot going on next week. I was like, I need that man to look like he's a top 10 franchise. Like, I need you to hook me. I need you to help me out. I need that man to look like he's a top 10 franchise.
You know what's interesting? Everything that you told him, though, he asked me, he said, hey, so how long y'all been in the top 5, top 10 franchises in the country? And he knew all the right questions. And I asked him, I said, hey, man, tell me how you got started in the hair business. Okay. How'd you become a barber? He said, interestingly enough, years ago, I was right out of high school, and I ended up having a child. And my mom told me, she said, if you're going to support this child, you need to go find something to do. And he said, well, man, Mom, I don't know what I can do. And she said, you can come work for me in my beauty salon.
I didn't realize, he told me a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. And so he did. And man, he said it's been the last 12, 18 months, whatever it is, that he started his own barbershop. Great little place downtown Birmingham. If you're in the Birmingham area, I would highly encourage you to go check him out.
Great. He's got a great spot. He's right next to, and I feel terrible, I hope nobody from there listens to my podcast, but they've got, I think it's Birmingham Brewing.
Yeah.
It's a cool little brewery that's right next door. It's, I think, Wasabi Ones, if you're in Birmingham, obviously Wasabi Ones is like a sushi burrito place, but it's a nice little spot.
Right off 2nd Avenue South.
Right off 2nd Avenue South. It's a great spot. Great crew. I mean, the place is packed all the time. He's got 4 chairs in there, so he's got other guys. They're specialized. So it's crazy to me as him as an entrepreneur watching what he's done. I mean, like, he's expanding. You know, he's announced he's doing Vestavia. He's looking to do, more than that. But he's created this vibe, and it's just cool to see somebody his age, like you said, that started from, well, I need to support my family.
Yeah. Well, he told me this too. He said, well, tell me how you got into SERVPRO. Of course, I told him our story. You guys have heard that on the show before. But he said, you know what's interesting is I was cutting a gentleman's hair. This was early in his process. And he said the guy was sitting in the chair. I don't know if you know this story. He said the guy was sitting in the chair, and all of a sudden he started giving me this business advice. And he said, he said, if you want help getting started, I would love the opportunity to help you start. And say his name again, Raul. Raul told him. He said, well, sir, I would love it. What do I owe you? And the guy said, you owe me nothing as long as you promise that you will pay it forward one day. Yeah. And basically he was saying, I will mentor you, but you have to promise me that you're going to mentor other young men to be able to do what you do and how you do it. So it was a really neat story. Really neat
he's
story.
Doing that because he's building the ranks, because he wants to expand. So he's trying to find guys that are kind of in that same field that are wanting to grow. So we talked about that a little bit today. I'm like, so are you teaching, like, do you have a fade parlor way? We joke about all the time that you guys have the Wilson way. So I was like, do you have like the fade parlor way? Like, I mean, obviously I feel like being a barber is like being a content creator. You have your own style. Everybody does something different. They cut a different way. Like, I just enjoy the way Raul cuts my hair. Like, I've not found somebody in a long time. So that's why I go to him. And so but his clients have the same thing. Like, it was funny. You were mentioning one that you were joking about, one day just shaving, going ahead and shaving it all off, man.
Well, where that started from was I looked down a couple of seats over from me, and the other gentleman working in there was cutting hair, and he's bald and just has
clean
his beard.
Though. Looks good, clean.
I mean, clean. And I told Raul, I said, I'm going to end up like him in the next couple of cuts. And he laughed. He looked at me. He said, but what you don't know is he's only 24 years old. You're 44 years old. You've lasted longer than him. So he was trying to make me feel good. Thank you. Thank you so much.
It was good though. As we sat and joked about that, because Sarah was like, what are they laughing at? So I was telling her, and I was telling her about Raul, and I was like, man, I enjoy talking to him. Like, I love coming in here. Like, I said, but he reminds me a lot of you. Like, it's like you and your brother are so good at taking care of our company. You take care of people. Like, you've always said, hey, we take care of people. They take care of us. And I was like, yeah, he just, like, a few weeks ago, they just got back. He took all of his team to the beach. He let them bring like bring a spouse or, just a significant other. Mm-hmm. So I was like, he's trying to do it right. So you can tell he is doing what he was like what he said to do. I mean, he is paying it forward. He's trying to train, and he's trying to build up those, and he's building a business off something that what I think it is too is sustainable. Like it's a business that everybody needs.
Yeah,
you know,
you gotta
it's
have it.
something
Yeah.
you got to have it. You know, I joked with him that I was like, look, you know, because I told him what was funny is I said, well, he's been going to like Great Clips to get his hair. I was like, so I'm excited for him to come in. And I was like, you know, we always joke about it. And I always tell him that, you know, barbershop for me is one of the things I love. And I said, but he's been going to Great Clips. He's like, he's been getting those $6.99 haircuts. And he was like, how do they do it? I was like, look, I'll be honest with you, man. I said, I think there's a time and place for everything. I was like, I mean, you're not going to bring you don't probably typically want to bring your kid to like a barbershop like this.
Right.
You know, you just need a quick haircut. I was like, so I think it has its place. But I was like, you know, I'm excited for him to get the barber experience.
That's the key. That is the key right there, because that's exactly what they provided was the experience. Yeah. It wasn't just a haircut or a beard trim up. It was an experience.
Well, and it's a community. That's what I like about it. Like we were, you know, Raul, he was kind of congested, and I was like, man, I said, man, I've been congested like 6 or 7 times already this year, and we were just joking about long-term effects of everything that's gone on the past couple of years, and how many people, like my wife's had trouble with it, and he had it, but it was just everyone in the business, we're just talking. So it's a community that they've created, and they've created a culture and experience. So that's one of the reasons too why I like it, because I know when I go in, I'm going to talk to him for a moment. You know, we're going to catch up, and then he's cool about like he shares our stuff. He writes me, you know, he messages me on Instagram. So it's, you know, he never feels like he's too big,
right, for
the people that are his customers, you know.
So from a flip the script, okay. So from a mentor standpoint, not a mentee is someone that's looking for a mentor for advice, trust, you know, whatever. Yep. So from a mentor perspective, what do you think that a mentor gets out of a mentee?
I feel like it's fulfillment, knowing that you're doing something that somebody else is interested in.
Yeah.
So like for instance, in the 50 Cent book that I'm listening to, he talks about I mean, a lot of it's business oriented, but he talks about like don't ever be down on your own product. Like he's really big about having setbacks, right? Like you're going to have setbacks, like don't let one thing change all of it. He said, you know, he talks about everything that happened to him getting shot, like him getting turned down. Like he said, every one of those should have crushed me. Like every one of those should have kept me from moving forward, you know? And so he talks about a lot of those things that he walked through, but he made a statement and I loved it. He said, if one person asks for your advice, it's because they believe in your product.
That's good.
And I was like, man, that's strong. If one person ask for your advice, they believe in your product. They believe in your vision. They believe in what you can do. And I'm like, man, I was like, if anything felt like it's speaking to me, that's where I'm at. Cause you know, I've got some things next week. You know, we have a convention. I've had a few people reach out and say, hey, I need pictures or video. Like, can you do it? And in my head, I'm like, God, like there's so many better people. And, you know, I've always talked about how that's a struggle. Yeah. But, you know, it's been good because it's led me to where I'm like, all right, I need to have a sense of like, I know my stuff. Yeah. Like I know my stuff. I have skill, and I have a skill that I believe people should pay for. Like I've worked for it. So it's just, he talks through that, like have that confidence in it. And I think being someone who mentors other can help filter that, be like, look, you have worked hard enough that somebody else sees that hard work. Yep. And says, teach me.
That's dead on too, because if you think about it, they wouldn't be coming to the mentor in the first place for advice if they didn't want an answer to something.
If you're not doing what you're supposed to, and you're obviously like you know, I think you've mentioned this before, like if it's somebody has the potential to be $1 million business, but they're only doing like 10,000 a year, 50,000 a year, why would you ask them for advice? Like if you are who you want to, you are who you are around. So if you want to be $1 million business, why are you hanging out with 10 and 15 and $20,000 business people?
Exactly right. Think about this. Our father did an analysis with us 10 years ago, probably when he was still living. He told us this. He had a chart. The average business in America does between $750,000 a year and $1 million a year. That's the average business. Okay. Once people get past that $1 million mark, if they get past the $1 million mark, think about this. They have to have more employees, which means they could have insurance is higher, whatever the case may be. They are probably comfortable with a great salary. They're not working for someone else. They have their own business, and they may not want to get over that hurdle. You're in the I want to say he said top 65% of businesses in America that do $1 million. When you cross the $1 million mark to get to $5 million, you're in the top like 15% of businesses across America.
I swear I heard that in the book too. Like not that exact, but similar to what you're saying.
Yeah, and you get over $5 million up to 10 and above.
Yep.
You're in like the top 2 to 3% of businesses in America. So to your point, if someone listening now is an entrepreneur and you're at the 2 million, or you're at the 1 million mark trying to get to 2 to 5, you need to have a mentor who's doing 10.
Yeah.
If that's where you want to go.
Yeah.
It's in the church world. The average church in America runs 100 people.
Yeah.
100. Okay. So if you believe that the Lord has called you for your church to, shepherd 500 people, 1,000 people, in the cases of some large churches across America, 30, 40, 50,000 people, if you're running 100 people and you believe that the Lord wants you to have your church to have 500 people, you should probably be trying to get with, follow someone that's 1,000 people. How are they doing it? They got better processes and such in place. So the key here is whoever's mentoring you, make sure they've been there, done that, and they have a track that you could follow.
Well, and as they're doing that too, make sure yourself that for instance, you're hanging out with somebody, you're being mentored by somebody that's, $1 million company, $5 million, $10 million, whatever.
Yeah.
I also think it's important though, as you're being mentored, make sure you look at those things and set yourself like small goals for that. Like for instance, if your goal, I'm going to use just content creation. If my goal is to get to where I have 10,000 followers and I ain't nowhere near that. Okay. So let's make sure like I'm at 15.
Follow Adam West Media.
Yeah. Or Adam West. Just do Adam West first and then we'll worry about the other stuff.
Yeah.
But my goal shouldn't be, all right, by the end of this year, I want 10,000. That's a big goal. The problem with that goal's so large, and this may end up needing to be another podcast, but that goal is so large that if I don't achieve, it's going to be tough to achieve that, especially because I'm not a daily poster. Like and I know I haven't really created anything that gives people a ton of value other than something pretty to look at, so I've got to find, and these problem is just, again, timing, like talking about burnout, it's just timing to be able to do some of that. So you need to set smaller goals. Like, all right, if my goal is to get to 10,000 people, let's just worry to say, all right, by the middle of the year, I want to add 300 people to my followers list. Like legitimate. Okay. So you can look like you get a lot of bots, fake accounts. So, but you're like, hey, I want to sustain where if I'm at 1,500, I want to be at 1,700. I want to be at 1,800. So set small goals. So when you reach it, you say, all right, well now, and say it like, hey, I'll do that by, end of July, end of August. I'm going to try and push enough content that I can gain that. Well, you want to try to achieve that. So then you can say, all right, well, I want to say, well, let's try that. Like I achieved, 300, let's say 5 or 6 or whatever, or 1,000. So I think that's true too, is that even when you are being mentored, look for those small wins, like look for things to move to that. Don't overdo yourself. So that way you have those fall short. And that's something, if somebody asked me, that's what I would tell them too. They're like, look, set small goals. So that way you can have small victories. And then, because a victory is a victory to me. Like, doesn't matter if it's big, doesn't matter if it's large, but I'm like you, like I want my big victories. Like I want to sell $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 projects. Now, projects like that, obviously you're going to require time. They're going to require support. Like I'm not walking in myself and doing a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 video project. I've got to have a team. I've got to have help, but I've got to get to that point. So I need to be able to sell some of these smaller $500, $600, $700 jobs so I can get to that $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 job.
Yeah, it's good to have a mentor. And again, there's all different types of mentor, spiritual, physical, being a coach. A coach can be a mentor. It doesn't have to be called necessarily a mentor. It could be called a coach, a life coach. It could be a pastor. It could be a friend. It can be a coworker. It's always good to have some kind of mentor in your life, depending on where you and your family want to go. And I'm telling you, having that mentor walk alongside you can definitely pay dividends off in the long run. And to that point, again, flipping the script, you can also become a mentor by wanting to pay it forward to other people, so that you can teach others what you've learned and you've done. So it's a two-way street.
That kind of leads me into, just a thought processes too. I mean, understanding that being a mentor, there's things that come with it, right? Like you have got to understand that it's a responsibility you take on. It's a big responsibility. I always hate when you hear people be like, oh, you should give, and granted, I'm not in their position. So I'm just speaking from my opinion, but like, oh, you should give athletes, we got to give them, we got to give them slack here and slack there. I'm like, look, they chose to be in the limelight. Like I granted, again, I'm not in that, so I'm not trying to be judgmental of it, but I'm thinking like, look, that's something they said that they wanted to do. They have a skill set. They wanted it large. So I think sometimes being in a public facing image means that there's some things that you don't get to do. I hate bringing it up. I'm literally in the midst of reading the book, so I feel like I keep bringing it up. But one of the things he talks about is that he has an image to portray, and that he has responsibilities, not just for him, but for the people that he supports, his family, his publicist, his book editor or book publicist, or, his booking agent. So he has all these people to take care of. And he's like, I've got to remember that. So he's like, but also, I have to keep that image. He's like, yeah, I'll go, with my image. He's like, I'll go to the club. I go to the club. He's like, but most people think I'm drinking. I'm not. Like, I don't drink at all.
Right.
He said, like, big thing for him, especially in rap, like Hennessy's a big drink for rappers, he talked about. And he was like, in the rapping game, everybody drinks Hennessy. He said, if I go to the club with some folks, he said, what I do is I pour out all the Hennessy to them, and then my bodyguard fills it up with ginger ale. And he said, I hold the bottle all night long, because he said it's in a tinted bottle, so you can't tell. So he sips on it like he's big and cool, like drink. He's like, I put up an image. He's like, I'm just drinking ginger ale. So, but which is probably far from that's probably a terrible example. But the whole point I'm talking about is just being in that.
He realized his responsibility he has.
And he said, I never want to be in a state of impairment. He said, in my role, I can't, like, from where I come from, I can't be in this. I need to be aware of my surroundings.
Yeah.
He said, I need to be aware. And he said, and he talks about it, I know that's coming from somebody like me that comes from Queens. He said, but he said, in your own business, it needs to be that. You should always be aware. He said, it stays one step ahead, because he said, you know what happens? He said, when you go out to business with your folks, if you're part of a business, which is one of the reasons why I'm glad we don't really partake in that. But one of the things we do as a team, we don't drink. Like, you won't find us at any function, at anything. We don't entertain it. It's not what we do. But he says, if your company does things like that, he said, don't be the person that does. He said, because you know what? He said, you want to get ahead in the game? And he's like, I don't feel like this is wrong. He said, if they're going to choose to impair themselves and give away what they're working on,
right,
give me the edge.
You know what's funny about that? I had someone ask me a while back, I don't drink alcohol. I choose not to, right? I don't, and there are people that do, have nothing wrong with it. But someone asked me, they said, why do you not drink? I said, why do I have to? Yeah. And they go, what do you mean? I said, why do I have to? What's the point? If I don't want to and you want to, I mean, it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, I can have fun without doing that. So it's interesting that to his point, he does have an image to uphold. He has a responsibility to himself and to his family, or the publishers and whoever else. So good for him.
It's just kind of funny. And he said, you usually wouldn't think that of me. Like, you see me and you instantly are like, oh man, I bet she's in the club drinking this every night and partying up. He said he doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink, he doesn't do any of that. He said, no, I'll have a drink every once in a while.
Yeah.
But he said, I'll baby it. So I mean, obviously, like, for me, I'm somebody that typically will have a drink every once in a while, but the last thing, I don't ever want myself impaired either.
Right.
And so I think too, you have to remember it's where you're at. Like, you have to be careful in that. So, I mean, I think about what we do with the church, what we do at SERVPRO, what we do on the podcast, what we do. Not just that. I mean, one of our big things is it's not just me I'm working for. Like, we wear y'all's name. We wear your personal name. Like, people know we're part of Team Wilson. So we wear that name, and we have to be careful with that sometimes. And it's funny because that's something your brother's moving me into, is we're kind of changing my role. Like, it just changed this week, where now I'm director of digital marketing and branding, because branding's a big thing for me. Like, I love love branding. I feel like I bleed branding. Like it's important to protect your.
Someone has to.
You have to, because it's your forward-facing image.
Yeah.
And I think some of that things too. So I think that's important for you. If you are somebody that's mentoring someone, you have to protect your forward-facing, and not just you, but the people you're mentoring.
Right.
You know, we're in an age now where social media, and like something goes wrong, like you're getting hit left and right.
Well,
look
at the Ja Morant. I mean, you know, the NBA basketball player, great basketball player. Maybe he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Maybe he shows a gun on social media once, twice. I mean, they did something about it.
Yeah. Well, what's crazy if you think about it, I mean, outside of the first case, which I believe was in a club, the second one that he's getting, in trouble over, he was in his own vehicle. He wasn't even around the public.
Right.
So people are like, wait, he didn't even break a law. Like, and I mean, if you think about it, you're not wrong, but is that the image that you want to portray? And you have to, I think sometimes you have to remember that while, yes, you have the right to talk that way. You have the right to say what you want. I joke, I tell people this all the time, that they don't need to take it as a joke. It's like what you're posting.
Mm-hmm.
I shared something that I saw some of our other counterparts post, and I'm like, that just looks so bad for their team. Like, why would you post something that's language filled or that doesn't, because it dilutes the brand.
Yeah.
And because you obviously states who you work for. Like I saw them post on their social media. Like that's the other thing. Like if you want to be that way, don't have all these things tied to your account that says, oh, I work here.
Right.
And I do that. I mean, I don't think you should be doing it anyways, but I think you have to be careful as a mentor, because it can hurt that how it looks. And I think people have to realize that. So like when he did that, and he did his, he had the second, already gotten in trouble, said he was going to change, he wasn't going to do it. And then what was even worse is I think they came out like 30 days later and they're like, oh, it was a toy. Yeah. I'm like, oh, so it took you a month to realize it was a toy.
Yeah.
So,
no, but the thing with him, and again, these kids especially nowadays are looking up to someone like him.
Everything.
I'll give you a great example. LeBron James. He's been in the league now. I want to say he's almost, if he's not 40, he's getting close. Yep. He's been in the league, over almost 20 years, a little over 20 years. The guy's won, 4 or 5 NBA championships. He has the all-time scoring record in the NBA. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that you have ever heard one thing about him. Never been in trouble. He's been married to his wife. I want to say they met in high school, maybe. I could be wrong with that. Kids, great kids.
He's given everything back. He built a school that's for underprivileged kids.
Yeah.
In Akron to help them because it's not the best school system in Akron. And so, whether you agree with his politics or not, which I think sometimes should really not be here nor there, that's just how we view things. From a mentor perspective, he's doing it right. And you need to look at that. And I think it's important, because I think you have to look at those things like, all right, put aside how you feel someone might politically look at things. Then if neither here nor there, he's done life right.
Yeah. And
he's built an empire for himself. And he's smart with how he's done things. And look at a lot of these. And then you have these other athletes that they throw it away.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get themselves in trouble. They don't have themselves, and they built. Look at Steph Curry. Steph Curry has never been in trouble, never done anything. And don't get me wrong, I can't stand the man, because
the guy can play some basketball.
The guy can play some basketball. That's why I hate it so much, because the dude puts a ridiculous shot. Even the Joker. He didn't even care about it. He's like, can I just go home? Like, we won. We're done. Can I go home? It's just funny seeing how the athletes that do it right sometimes are never the ones that get the credit. But those are the people you should be looking to as mentors.
And remember, you talked about this too. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
Go ahead.
You talked about this. You said, social media today. Okay. Mm-hmm. These two guys we just talked about, LeBron James and Steph Curry, the media is always looking for something wrong. That's what the media is, right? I heard someone say this a long time ago. Television. Tell a vision. Mm-hmm. They are simply reporting stuff that may be true, may not be true. Who knows
bleeds
nowadays?
Leads is what I remember hearing in college one time in an economics class. What bleeds leads.
Yeah. I mean, look at Kobe Bryant, same thing. The guy
Yeah.
was fantastic. So to look at one of those three guys we just talked about to be a mentor from a business perspective, they've done things right. You can't argue with that.
Well, and remember too, we're living in a day and age that if you're somebody that's looking for a mentor, I think it's appropriate to look at things like social media. I mean,
check them out.
There's individuals that I follow on my accounts because they put out things that bring me value. They put out reels and videos that have taught me how to use my camera and give me ideas. Like they give me ways to learn. And, and what's great is some of them connect, even have tens of thousands of followers, they still connect with you. But I think that's something too to think about, that if there's not somebody directly in your life, I don't think it's inappropriate to look on somewhere like social media. Like, I mean, obviously look at who it is and what you're doing, but I think a mentor could be somebody that you know on a personal level, or somebody, and sometimes social media feels like that because you see them post every day. You see what they're doing. You almost feels like you see the inside of their life. But I think that's important too, whether that's a spiritual leader that posts a lot, whether it's somebody like a Dave Ramsey, or, anybody that handles finance, or whether that's an athlete.
By the way, he is a great mentor when it comes to finances. Dave Ramsey, the guy.
Yeah.
The guy.
And so I know you'll preach him to your blue in the face. But I think too, that's something as you, if you're listening to this podcast, you're like, well, I don't, especially if you think I don't have anybody in my life. I don't have somebody right now that can mentor me. Yeah. I mean, social media connects you to that, and I think as long as you're using it in a healthy standard, you're not like cyber stalking folks and, sliding into their DMs in the middle of the night. I think that's something that you can look at too, that brings value. I mean, there's a lot of things that I do now because of that. And I feel like that I've learned with my camera because of the stuff there's things that I'm like, man, I didn't even know that. There's a guy, I can't remember his name. I think his tag is this 40-year-old guy, but it's hilarious. He's like, in my 40 years, he's like, there's no way you can do that. And he makes these noises. It's how he starts every video. And it's things like how to wrap up an extension cable. Oh yeah. Or how to clean things in the house, or even something as stupid as how to pour a beer without foam. He's like, oh, there's no way. You can't do that. I've been alive for 40 years. There ain't no way I didn't know that. It's just, I think you can find that inspiration in places, but I know as we get ready to wrap up, I think the biggest thing, to touch on, if you're somebody that's mentoring someone, just make sure you're careful with what you're doing. And I think that's a big responsibility to have. And I think that's something that you got to watch what you're doing. And if you're somebody that's looking for a mentor, find it somebody that's find it to be someone that's where you want to be at. Yeah. Not where you hope they're going to be. Find someone who is where you want to get to. And a good connection point there. If you do attend a local church, talk to your pastor. They know people in your church. They could be business small groups you didn't know about, or so. Awesome. Well, look, I want to tell you guys, I can't thank you enough, Adam and I both, for the inspiration that you send us. We get messages all the time about wanting to know about this or that, just thanking us for this. Had a guy reach out to us from the state of Washington here recently. He listens to this. By the way, thank you for listening. But just saying what inspiration we were to him, and anything we can do to help you, you can always email us, Benji@higheruppodcast.com. You can subscribe again on any platform, YouTube as well. We just want to say thank you for connecting with us. Spread this, spread our social media posts, because the more people we can inspire, that's what this show is all about. Yeah. And we want to do that. Yeah. I think I'm going to start something new real quick before we go. I think you mentioned the review. I think that you can only leave reviews on Apple right now. Spotify is just a star rating. So we appreciate you guys doing that. That helps us a lot. But I think it'd be important, as long as they're coming in. Yeah. It'd be great to read some of these. So I'll share that one with you. It's from Keith. So shout out to Keith. Yeah, hopefully he's listening to this one. But here's what he said. It was awesome. It was a 5-star review. He said he said it was brilliant. He said, as a Blue Star native, the last thing I'd ever expect to love listening to is two dudes with Southern accents talking about intersecting topics of faith and business. Yet humbling, I'm happy to admit I'm pleasantly surprised by how genuine and thought-provoking both Adam and Benji are in their approach to both. It's evident that they aim to aid others towards success with their experience and happy to share their insight. It's quickly turned into one of my favorite podcasts, and now in my current rotation alongside How I Built This and Creators Science. Well done, gentlemen. I look forward to more.
That's awesome.
So Keith, man, we appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure.
Never met Keith in person. Actually, it's funny. I met him through a creative creative conference that Nick Goodner put on. So
Nick Goodner is a great mentor.
Great. Hopefully one day we can be big enough to have that man on this podcast. You guys help us get there. He's awesome.
Spread the word. Send him an email.
Spread the word. Send him an email. Send him a message. But yeah, so we appreciate it. Please do that. Hey, look, if you do leave us a review, we'd love to read it. Well, we've got about 10 or 15 more of those. So we'll try to take one each episode. And I think it'd be something fun to do as we wrap up, just so you guys can hear that, guys and gals. I keep saying guys. I know we got both. So we appreciate you and appreciate y'all listening. But we'll have another one for you guys in about 2 weeks. We got a little bit going on. Benji and I both will be out of town at the time we're recording this the next week for our big SERVPRO convention. And then, man, we'll be back in town the week of July 4th. And so we'll have some downtime that we'll be able to record another one. But we got some good ones. I think we got some good episodes. I know you mentioned, Benji, some episodes. I'd love to talk about hustling. I think this book has got me on a hustle right now mentality. I think that'd be a great topic, or, goals, or just positivity, negativity. So we got some good ones coming up. And then hopefully in the next coming episodes, we're going to start trying to pull some guests in for you guys that might fit that. Maybe it's the digital marketing landscape. I know for me, I told Benji, that's a big one. I want to talk about digital marketing, especially in the church world. I feel like business is important, but if you're listening to us and you're part of a church, I think it's important. I'd love to get some of that. Or, Benji, I know you got some hopes for some worship guests. That's a big thing for you. So I feel like we got some good stuff coming up.
Yeah, really cool.
So pretty good. But hey, we love you guys. We appreciate you listening. Y'all enjoy your week and go live a higher up life. Hey, Benji and I want to take a moment and just thank you for listening to the Higher Up Podcast. We really hope you enjoyed today's episode and just learned some valuable insights to help improve your own life. Hey, if you found today's episode helpful, we would be grateful if you could take a moment and rate us 5 stars on Spotify. Or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, we just want to know what you think about the show. Either way, when you leave us a review, you're helping us grow our network and reach more people with our message. Remember, our mission is to empower you in every aspect of your life, and we're thankful for your support. We've got new episodes of the Higher Up Podcast dropping every other Thursday, so take a second and turn on notifications to stay in the loop. Make sure that you follow us on your favorite social media platforms to stay connected with our community. We just want to thank you again for listening, and we look forward to having you join us again on the Higher Up Podcast.